Hello friends, now in this lecture we'll revise the surface area and volumes of solids. So we'll start with surface area and volume of cube, then cuboid, then we come to the cylinder, then cone, and at the last sphere. So very first thing we'll see what is cube, what is cuboid. So cuboid you can say that any solid has length, breadth, and height is called a cuboid. You can see so many examples around you of cuboid. Matchbox is a cuboid. Your textbook is a cuboid. So it has three dimensions. It has length, breadth, and height. Okay. So if I draw a cuboid over here, it looks something like this. Okay. It has length, breadth, and height. Okay. So now here we have to discuss about its surface area, its total surface area, and its volume. Okay, so it has six surfaces. You can see any cuboid has a six surface, and each surface is in a shape of a rectangle. And we know that area of a rectangle is product of its both dimensions. So over here, if I consider this as length, okay, this as width, that is breadth, and this is as height, that is h. So area of this wall, front wall, is L into h. Area of backside wall is again L into h. Okay, similarly area of these two walls is B into h, and area of that lower wall, that is L into B, and upper wall, roof, is L into B. So in that way I can say uh, for cuboid, okay, if I talk about cuboid, its total surface area is is sum of area of its all six surfaces, that is LB plus BH plus HL. Okay, and all the surfaces occur two times, so twice of LB plus BH plus HL. This is the total surface area of a cuboid. Okay, now after TSA means total surface area. That means sum of the areas of all the surfaces, that is total surface area. Now next is LSA. LSA is lateral surface area, that is area of walls. And when I say area of walls, that means I have to skip the area of floor and the area of roof. LSA, lateral surface area. That means I have to skip this L into B as well as this L into B. So among this, if I skip twice of L into B, I will get twice of BH plus HL. Further, it can be written as, if I take H common, this will become L plus B, 2H L plus B. If I rewrite this in this way, H multiplied by 2L plus B. Now, if you observe carefully, this H is the height and 2L plus B is the perimeter of the base. So, this LSA can be written as multiplied by height multiplied by perimeter of base. Okay, perimeter of base. Okay, so this is the essay. Now third thing, that is volume. Now volume of a cube means amount or the quantity of liquid that it can hold. See, in general, volume we can find area of base into height. I'm not saying for each and every solid figure it is applicable, but in general we can say volume is the area of base into height. So here area of base is LB and height is H. So this is the volume of the cuboid. So total surface area, lateral surface area, and volume for cuboid. Okay, now next, after this, now we'll see the total surface area, lateral surface area, and volume for the cube. Now, if we see what is the basic difference between cube and cuboid, we can say if in a cuboid all the dimensions become same, that means L is equal to B is equal to H, then we'll get a solid which is called cube. A Rubik cube is the best example of a exact cube. So this is somehow cube looks like. Okay, all its dimensions are same. Okay, now in cuboid, each and every surface was in a shape of a rectangle. Over here, each and every surface or face is in a shape of a square. Okay, now here I am considering L equal to B equal to H. So for cube, if I consider all dimensions or all the edges are equal to L. Now there are two ways to get the total surface area, lateral surface area and volume for the cube. First we can get with the help of these formulas. For example, here this is L into B, B into H, H into L. For cube, L, B, H are same. So here at the place of B I can put L. Here again I can put L and here again L. So this will become L square plus L square plus L square. That is 3L square multiplied by 2, that is 6L square. So I can say TSA for cube is 6L square. Or in other words, I can say each face of a cube is in a shape of a square and area of square is L square, as it has 6 faces, so its TSA will be 6L square. Now lateral surface area, that is area of wall, that means excluding the area of top and the bottom. So I can say there are 4 faces or 4 walls and area of each surface is L square, so LSA is 4A square. Or we can find with the help of this formula as well. Here not A square, let it be L square, because I am considering all sides are equal to L. Now here L into L, L square, L into L, L square. L square plus L square, 2L square into 2, that is 4L square. Now TSA, LSA. Now volume, here it is L into L into L. So you will get L cube. So this is the volume. So total surface area, lateral surface area and volume of cuboid, then for cube. Okay, now next we will see uh, these formulas for after cube and cuboid. Next we will see uh, cylinder. Okay, next is cylinder. Okay, now cylinder, we can say if a rectangular sheet is rolled, then the shape we will get is a cylinder. Something like this will, we can say a cylinder is. Okay, I can say this marker is exactly in the shape of a cylinder, almost it is cylinder. The tube light is a cylinder. Okay, so this is a cylinder. Now this cylinder has radius r, radius of its base is r, or radius of the circular portion is r. This is its height h. Okay, so now again here we will see the total surface area, the lateral surface area and the volume. So see, now in the cube and cuboid it was lateral surface area, and over here we have a different term, that is curved surface area. The basic meaning is same. When I say lateral surface area or I say curved surface area, it means I am talking about the area of wall only. We we do not have to include the area of uh, top and the bottom. Okay, we have to exclude the area of base of the bottom and the top. Just we have to take the area of curved surface. So it is called CSA, curved surface area. Its formula is 2 pi r h. Curved surface area is 2 pi r h. Now this is the curved surface area. Now total surface area as I told you, total surface area, that means area of all the surfaces. So other than this curved surface, other than this curved surface, it has two surfaces more. This upper surface and this bottom surface, and these two surfaces are in the shape of a circle. Okay, these two surfaces are in the shape of a circle, and area of circle is pi r square. So if I add 2 pi r square. Why 2 pi r square? Because one is the at the top and another one is the at bottom. So if I add the area of these two circular faces in the curved surface area, I will get the total surface area. Now here definitely it is possible to take something common, so I can take 2 pi r common, so here I will get h plus r. So in this way, this is the total surface area of the cylinder. Okay, and that was the curved surface area of the cylinder. Now after this, volume. See, as I told you, volume in general is the area of base multiplied by height. So here area of base is pi r square because it is circular. So pi r square, and height is h. So volume is pi r square h. Volume of a cylinder is pi r square h. Okay, so that is the volume of cylinder. Now next we'll see volume of a hollow cylinder. That means suppose we have a pipe, and in that case we have to find the volume of the material used to find the to form that pipe. Then how to find the volume of that material? For that we'll have formula of hollow cylinder or cylindrical shell. So next is hollow cylinder or cylindrical shell is the same thing. So uh, it looks something like this. Okay, okay, this is something like hollow cylinder. It looks like this. Okay, so that means it is hollow. Now we have to find its total surface area, its curved surface area, and its volume. So first we will see its curved surface area, CSA. Now its curved surface area. See, whenever you have to find the curved surface area or the total surface area, always you have to think about that on which surfaces we can paint, on which surfaces of the given solid it is possible to paint or it is possible to color. Now, when we have a hollow cylinder, imagine about a pipe which is hollow. It is possible to paint its inner side as well as it is possible to paint its outer side. So, over here, two radii will be given to you. One is the internal radius, that is a small r, and another one is the capital R, that is external radius. Okay. So to paint its inner portion, we need its inner CSA, that is 2 pi small r h, as well as we need 2 pi capital R h, because height is same. Height of the cylinder is same. That means for inner portion as well as for external portion. Now, as well as we can also cover color in this ring. See, here I am drawing the top view of the uh, top view of this pipe. Okay, this pipe looks like something like this. So this shaded portion also it is possible to paint on this. So here we will say this is area of ring. Now how to find this area of ring? Can I say area of this larger circle minus area of this smaller circle gives you this area of ring? So that is also is a part of, we won't say it is a part of CSA, definitely CSA is that much only, but when we find the total surface area, we have to add this area of ring. So CSA is this. Now here I do write it in a simplest form by taking 2 pi h common. Now we'll say TSA. TSA is definitely first of all curved surface area. Now after this curved surface, we have to add the area of ring on both the sides. That means I have to add 2 pi capital R square minus a small r square. Okay, 2 pi r square, that is area of larger circle, 2 pi r square small r square area of this smaller circle. Their difference gives you the area of ring. Now here again it is possible to take something common. Okay, this r square minus r square can be written as r plus r, r minus r. So 2 pi capital R plus a small r can be taken common. 2 pi capital R plus small r can be taken common. So what we left with 2 pi. So small r plus TSA. Okay. So if I take 2 pi r plus r common, so I will left with r plus r minus r. Okay, it is 2 pi h, not r. It is 2 pi h. So if I take 2 pi common, so here I will left with h plus r minus r. Okay, so this is the total surface area of a hollow cylinder or cylindrical shell. Now volume. Volume means, over here volume means definitely as it is hollow, it cannot store, it cannot hold any liquid. So when we talk about a hollow cylinder and we talk about the volume of the hollow cylinder, it means we have to find the amount or the quantity of the material that is being used to create that cylinder. Okay, so that is, if see, for a while, suppose this is a solid. Now to get the volume of this hollow cylinder, I can say if I subtract the volume of this cylinder, inner cylinder, from the volume of complete cylinder, I will get the volume of hollow cylinder. So pi capital R square h minus pi small r square h. So volume will be, if I take pi r square common, sorry, if I take pi h common, so volume is capital R square minus small r square. CSA, TSA and volume. Okay, so that is about the hollow cylinder or cylindrical shell. Now next solid, that is cone. Next we will see total surface area, curved surface area and the volume of a cone. Okay, so cone or right circular cone is the same thing. So this is something like cone, looks like a cone with radius r and but obvious height as h. Okay, now here this is called slant height. Okay, and we have a relation between these. As this angle is 90 degree, with the help of Pythagoras theorem, I can say L is equal to square root of r square plus h square. Now we'll see its, first of all, its curved surface area. Okay, curved surface area is, that means this, that is pi r l. Curved surface area is pi r l. Now total surface area is, what we have to do in total surface area, we have to add the all areas, okay, to get the total surface area. Now total surface area definitely CSA plus area of any other surface if there is any. Yes, there is a flat surface, this, and this is circular in the shape, so its area is pi r square. So pi rl plus pi r square gives you total surface area. So if I take pi r common, L plus R, this is the total surface area of the cone. Okay, now volume. Now there is a relation between the volume volume of a cone and a volume of a cylinder. See, if we take three cones of same height and radius and a cylinder whose height and radius is same as the radius of the and height of the cone. That means here I say radii is r of all and height is h. That means these four solids, among these four, three are cones and one is cylinder, have same radius r and same height h. Then if we fill water in these three cones and if we pour this water in this cylinder, we'll find when we pour all these, uh, uh, if we pour the water from all three cones, then it will get filled completely. So we can say 3 into volume of cone is equal to volume of cylinder, or we can say volume of cone is equal to 1 by 3 volume of cylinder, which is pi r square h. Okay, so this is the volume of TSA and CSA of cone. Now next we will see after this cone. Okay, over here you have to remember this L is equal to root of h square plus r square. Now finally we'll come to the cylinder. Okay, sorry, finally we'll come to the sphere. Okay, sphere, that means you can say a very famous or known, well-known example of sphere is a ball, whether it is a football or cricket ball or volleyball, but obviously not the rugby ball because it is not spherical. Now here it has only one dimension, that is radius. So first we'll say TSA. Now in this case, either I say TSA or I say CSA is the same thing, because sphere has only one type of surface. It has only curved surface, and that curved surface is actually its total surface. So TSA or CSA in this case remains same, that is 4 pi r square, and volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube. So TSA of sphere is 4 pi r square and volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube. Okay, after sphere we'll see the uh, hemisphere. Okay, hemisphere looks like, you can say, a bowl. It is a hemisphere. Okay, it might be solid, it might be hollow. So first we'll see about solid hemisphere. So it's TSA. Now here there are two types of surfaces. You can see there is a one curved surface and there is one flat surface. So CSA is half of this, that is 2 pi r square. Now, if I say total surface area, so we know that to get the total surface area, we have to add the areas of all the surfaces. So here one is the curved surface, another one is the flat surface. So area, now flat surface you can see is a circular, and area of circle is pi r square. That means if we add pi r square in curved surface area, we'll get total surface area. Okay, so I can say TSA is actually 3 pi r square. Now next is volume. Okay, volume of hemisphere is half of the volume of the sphere, that is 2 by 3 pi r cube. That is the uh, CSA, TSA and volume of hemisphere. Now after this we'll see hemispherical shell. Hemispherical shell. That means hollow hemisphere. Next is hollow hemisphere or hemispherical shell. Okay, so something like this is the hollow hemisphere. Okay, this is something like hollow hemisphere. So again, it has internal radius small r and external radius capital R. Okay, now over here, first of all, we'll see curved surface area. So curved surface area of a hemispherical shell. See, curves, when I say curved surface area or total surface area, I have to see on how many surfaces and on which surfaces it is possible to paint or it is possible to color. So if you imagine a hollow hemispherical shell, that is a bowl. So it is possible to paint bowl on both sides, that means at the exterior side as well as on the interior side. So its CSA will be 2 pi, sorry, 4 pi r square, 2 pi r square plus 2 pi capital R square. I'm assuming it has some thickness. Okay, so that means if I take 2 pi common, r square plus r square, that is the curved surface area of a hemispherical shell. Okay, now after CSA, now whenever we have to find TSA, we have to add the all the areas. We have to add all the areas. So CSA is already there. Now we have to see, is there any other area over which we can paint? Yes, we can paint on this ring. Okay, we can paint on this. If I give you the top view of this bowl, you will get something like this. So here it is possible to paint, and this is the ring. And area of ring is area of external circle minus area of internal circle, or area of larger circle minus area of smaller circle. So other than this, I have to add uh, area of ring, that is pi r square minus r square. Now here there is only one ring. In cylinder there were two rings, at the upper end and at the bottom end. Here there is only one open end. So I will add only area of one ring. Now definitely this can be simplified further. Yes, at the max I can take pi common. So if I take pi common, here you will get 2r square plus 2r square plus capital R square minus a small r square. So on simplifying further, 2 plus 1, that is 3 capital R square plus 1 small r square. This is the total surface area of a hemispherical shell. Okay, after this, next we will see its volume. So volume over here, uh, if we talk about the volume of the material, then I will write 2 by 3, 2 by 3 pi capital R cube minus small r cube. This is the volume of the material to form that hemispherical shell. And if I talk about how much amount it can hold, then it will be 2 by 3 pi small r cube. So this is all about the surface area and volumes. Okay. Okay, now see, this particular chapter has many variety of questions. We'll discuss one or two types of questions. Okay, the very first type of question, that is, I can say, directly formula based question. Okay, directly formula based question. Okay, formula based question. For example, they will ask you to find the volume or the curved surface area or the total surface area of a solid whose all dimensions will be given to you directly. It is the very first type of question. Second, it is possible that dimensions are not given directly to you. For example, it is given for a cylinder, ratio of radius and height is given. For example, 2 is 4 is to 5, and also its TSA is given. So using that value of TSA, for example, I take it 100, using that TSA and these dimensions, you will get the value of R and H, and it is quite possible they ask you to find its volume. So unless and until you won't have the radius and height directly, it is not possible to get the volume. So using this ratio and this TSA, value of TSA, you have to find R and H, and then you have to find the volume. Then third type of question, I won't say third type, but one of the type of the question, that volume conservation. For example, it will be given to you that there is a container, okay, contains some ice cream. This ice cream has to be uh, took into the ice cream cones. So how many ice cream cones can be uh, uh, filled? So for this, what you have to do, you have to compare the volumes. For example, volume of this is pi r square h. Definitely radius and height will be given to you. Okay, now we can equate this because we are filling these cones with the help of this volume of this ice cream which is in the cylinder. Now I'm assuming let there are n cones. Now here it is 1 by 3 pi r square h. Now in this type of question you can cancel pi and pi directly by comparing this. Now definitely capital R, capital H, that means R and H of the cylinder must be given to you, and R and H of the cone will be given to you. Okay, just by comparing these two you will get the value of n. That was the third type of question. Now next uh, type of question, that again we can say it is a comparison only, but it is something like this, that there is a cylinder, okay, it is filled with water up to a height, that height will be given to you. Now a sphere or a smaller cube is being dropped into this. By doing so, it is changed by this, the volume of cube or volume of cylinder, or volume of cylinder or volume of cube is given to you, they will ask you to find the uh, increase in height. So how to find this? See, again, initially this was the level of the water. At the end, the water becomes come up to this level. Now this portion is, again you can see, is a cylinder only. So volume of this cylinder, but obviously its radius will be same as the radius of the cylinder, and height that we have to find, and volume of sphere or cone, whatever is dropped, either given to you directly or their dimension must be given to you. So by comparing the volumes, you will be able to get the unknown. Okay, next type of question we can say that they will ask you to find the ratio. For example, it will be given that two cones are there, their radii are in the ratio 2 is to 3. Okay, their heights are in the ratio 4 is to 5. Find the ratio of their volumes, okay, or find the ratio of their total surface area, or find the ratio of their curved surface area. So this was the fourth type, and this is the fifth type of question. Now next type of question that is generally asked, that percentage change or percentage increase or percentage decrease. For example, it is given that radius of a cylinder is increased by 10%. Find the percentage change in its volume, or find the percentage change in its total surface area or curved surface area. So these type of questions generally are being asked. Okay, so now after this surface area and volume, now we'll come to the uh, next chapter, that is statistics. Okay, next chapter we'll start, that is statistics. Okay, so let us see something about statistics. We'll see very basic terminology related to statistics first, then we'll see some questions related to that. So very basic about uh, statistics is, it is all about frequency distribution. That means if the observations are given to us, so how to arrange them in a proper way so that we can conclude the results. So frequency distribution. Okay, frequency distribution can be done in two ways. The first is inclusive form. Okay, and another one is exclusive form. Now, what is inclusive and exclusive form, that we'll see in short. See, exclusive means in which upper limit is excluded. For example, this is like 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. So here you can see the particular observation 20 occurs in the first class as well as in the second class. So where we have to take it? So it's the rule that upper limit we won't include. That means if the any observation 20 will be there, then we won't include in the first class, we'll take it in the second class. Upper limit is excluded, and this is something like this: 1 to uh, 10, then 11 to 20, then 21 to 30, and so on. Okay, here there isn't any confusion that where we'll take 10 and 11, but there is another problem. Suppose we have observation 10.5, then where we take it? So in that case, we have to convert this inclusive form into the exclusive form. One thing more, this inclusive form is actually called discontinuous form. You can say it is not continuing, so it is called discontinuous form. Okay, and this inclusive form is called continuous form. Here you can see it is called continuous form. Observations or the classes where the first class and second class started from that, so it is called continuous form. Okay, now we'll see how to convert this inclusive into the exclusive form. For that, what you have to do to convert inclusive into exclusive, what actually we will do, we will add correction ratio. Okay, there is a term named correction factor or correction ratio. I'm taking it correction factor. What that correction factor is, this is the difference of half of the difference of upper limit of lower limit of any class and the upper limit of the previous class. Lower limit of the class of any class, lower limit of any class minus upper limit of previous class, upper limit of previous class divided by 2. First we will find this and then we will add and subtract this from the, we'll add this in the upper limit and subtract from the lower limit. For example, over here lower limit of any class, but obviously we won't take it for the first, because if I take lower limit of first class, I do not have the upper limit of the previous class. So but obvious I will start either from second or any other, but definitely not from the first. So lower limit of this class, that is 11, minus upper limit of previous class, that is 10, by 2, that is 0.5. Now what I will do, I add 0.5 in the upper limits and I will subtract 0.5 from the lower limit. So if I subtract from here, I will get 0.5. Okay, and here it will become 10.5. So this is the first class. Then again I will subtract, so here I will get 10.5, here 20.5, here 20, 20.5, and here 20, 30.5. So you can see now the classes are continuous, where the first class ends, second gets start from that. So this is the correction factor. We have to subtract correction factor from the lower limits and we have to add the correction factor in the upper limit to make the classes in continuous form. So this is about this frequency distribution. Now we'll see some more terminology related to this statistics. So next is range. Okay, next is range. Range is simply largest observation and the smallest observation. So many observations are given. Suppose if I talk about the marks given to you in a WRT, and the lowest marks are 7 and the highest marks are 29, then difference between 29 and 7 is the range of the given data. Okay, after range, next is class limits. Class limits. Now there are two terminology. One is simply class limit, and another one is class boundaries, true class limits, and actual class limits. This is the one class limit, and another is class boundaries or actual class limit. Okay, class boundaries, actual class limit, or true class limit. Okay, now we'll see what is the difference between simple class limit and this. These two are two different terms. Class limit is different, and these three are synonyms. So this is another thing. So suppose I have classes like 1 to 10, okay, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, and so on. Okay, this is the first type. And another, suppose I have here 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and so on. So if I talk about the class limits, so here I will say in this case 1 is the lower class limit, 10 is the upper class limit, 11 is the lower class limit, 20 is the upper class limit, 21 is the lower class limit, 30 is the upper class limit. Similarly over here, 10 is the lower class limit, 20 is the upper class limit. Here 20 is the lower class limit, 30 is the upper class limit for second class. For this third class, 30 is the lower class limit, 40 is the upper class limit. So these are the class limit. Now what are the class boundaries? See, class boundaries or actual class limits or true class limits we can find only if the given distribution is in the exclusive form. Okay, only in the, if it is in the mm, exclusive form. Yes, it should be in the exclusive form. That means it should be in the continuous form. For example, if I say what are the class boundaries of this class, so here it is not possible to find the class boundary. First we have to convert this series into the exclusive form, then and only then it is possible to find the class boundary or actual class limit or true class limit. For this distribution, this second one, definitely class limits and true class limits are same. Here I can say this is the lower class limit, or I can say this is the true lower class limit. Okay, or I can say 10 and 20 are the class boundaries for the first class, or 10 and 20 are the actual class limits of the this first class. But over here it is not possible to find class boundaries up till we won't convert it into the exclusive form. And just right now we saw that how to convert the class intervals into the exclusive form. So when I convert this in exclusive form, I will get something like this. Okay, now I can say over here class limits are 1 to 10, but true class limits are 0.5 and 10.5. Lower class limit of first class is 1, upper class limit of the first class is 10. But true lower limit of the first class is 0.5 and true upper class limit of the first class is 10.5. In short, whenever it is asked to find class boundaries or actual class limit or true class limit of any class, you have to convert the inclusive form into the exclusive form. And if it is in exclusive form, then in that case there is no difference between these two. Whatever are the class limits are the class boundaries or actual class limits or true class limits. Okay, now next is class size. Next is class size. So class size is actually, we can say, number of observation it has is the class size. Also we can say difference between true upper limit and true lower limit is the class size. See, here if I find the class size, it will be 10 minus 1, 9, isn't it? If here if I find the class size, it will be 20 minus 11, 9. But if you find the class size for this, here you will get 10. So class size is the difference between true upper limit and true lower limit. So we can say whenever we have to find class boundaries or actual class limit or true class limit or class size, the classes must be in the form of exclusive. Okay, now this is the class size. We can also find class size by see there is a term class. There is one more term known as class mark. Yes, class mark. Class mark is the um, upper limit plus lower limit divided by 2. Now over there it is not necessary to convert into the class in um, class boundaries. That means over there, suppose here if I find the class mark is actually upper limit plus lower limit divided by 2. So 10 plus 1, 11 by 2, isn't it? Now even though if I find the class mark with this form, again I will get 11 by 2. That means class mark doesn't depends that whether the class intervals are inclusive or exclusive. So why I discuss class mark? Because class size also can be find with the help of class mark. Difference of two consecutive class marks is called the class size. Okay, so here let me write that class size. First I can say difference difference between true, or simply I can say difference between true class limits. Difference between two class limits. Or I can say it is difference between, it is also difference between two two consecutive class marks. Two consecutive class marks. Doesn't matter whether the class intervals are in exclusive form or in inclusive form. Now next is class mark. Class mark is simply I am writing lower limit plus upper limit by 2, or if I write true lower limit plus true upper limit by 2. That means again it is class mark we can find directly whether the class intervals are inclusive or exclusive. Now next we will see uh, how to find the, suppose class marks are given. Okay, class marks are given and you have to find the class intervals or classes. Then how to find the classes if the class mark and the only class marks are given. Okay, so next is if class mark is A and class size is H, then classes can be defined in this way. Or I can say lower limit and upper limit, then class limits are A minus H by 2, this will be the lower limit, and A plus H by 2. Okay, this is not the minus sign, this is the hyphen. This is not the minus sign. Okay, this is lower limit, upper limit. Now only class mark is given, then how we'll find the class size? Just right now I told you to find the class size, it is the difference of two consecutive class marks. Okay, so that is about the basic theory. Okay, next we will see the graphical representation of the data. Now there are three ways to represent the data graphically. Okay, so first is the bar graph, graphical representation of data. In this first one is bar graph. In this first one is bar graph, then second one is histogram, and the third one is frequency polygon. Frequency polygon. Okay, so we'll see in very short what is bar graph, what is histogram, and what is frequency polygon. Suppose you have to represent any data on the bar graph. So generally we take data on the x-axis and the frequency of the data on the y-axis. For example, suppose uh, different activities are given on the x-axis. Okay, so we used to draw the graph in this way by keeping a equal space. Then this is called the bar graph. And for example, if I say this is the time spent by you on study, this is the time spent by you on TV, okay, this is the time spent by you on mobile. Just I am taking one live example. So suppose in hours we talk, so it is for a while this is 3 hours, okay, then just I am taking this is 5 hours and then this is 7 hours. Just I am taking a example. So this is the representation of a this is called the bar graph. We will make the bars or the rectangles of equal width by keeping the equal space between them. X-axis shows the different data, y-axis shows the frequency. Okay, do and this is in hours. So in this way, this is the bar graph simply. So now what is histogram? In histogram, we do not keep the space between the two consecutive rectangles. Okay, this is generally suppose if we talk about the marks obtained. Okay, so 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Okay, so again over here I represent the frequency in y-axis frequency, in x-axis it will be the data. So suppose between 0 to 10 there are 5 students. Okay, between 10 to 20, for example, I am taking 7 students. Between 20 to 30, there are only 4 students. Okay, between 30 to 40, suppose there are 11 students. Just I am giving an example that how to represent a histogram. Now 50 to suppose 40 to 60, there is only one student, and 50 to 60 no student. It is quite possible that, or suppose the exam was of 50 marks. Okay, so this is the histogram in which no space is there between two consecutive bars or rectangles. So here these are the marks. Okay, here number of students. Okay, now frequency polygon. Frequency polygon is can be drawn by with the help of histogram as well as without histogram. For that, what we will do, we'll find the class mark of each class. Class mark we just right now we saw class mark is the lower limit plus upper limit divided by 2. So this is the class mark 0 plus 5 by 2, 0 plus 10 by 2 that is 5, 10 plus 20 by 2 that is 15. So just uh, get these points in this way for the class mark. Also get the point of two imaginary classes, one after the last class, that is the last class is 40 to 50. So after that the class will be 50 to 60. So obtain the class mark of that point with 0 frequency, and similarly 0 to minus 10. So class mark is minus 5 with 0 frequency. This is the class mark with frequency 5. This is the class mark with frequency 7. This is the class mark with frequency 4. This is the class mark with frequency 11. This is the class mark with frequency 1. Now join these points with the help of scale or ruler and you will get the frequency polygon. So this is the frequency polygon. Now suppose you have to draw the frequency polygon without histogram. So simply what you have to do, you have to draw, you have to obtain these points. Which points? Class mark, oblique, sorry, comma, frequency. Okay. Obtain these points for each and every class. Classes are given, so you can find the class mark as well as you can find the frequency. Obtain those points on the graph paper and join them directly with the help of scale. Then you will get the frequency polygon without actually drawing the frequency, without actually drawing the histogram. Let me give you one example. Suppose the classes are 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. Okay, and their frequencies are for a while 4 and 5, 3, 7. So what will be our points? First point will be, see, 10 plus 15 by 2, that is 15. 15 comma 4, this will be the first point. 20 plus 30 by 2, that is 25 comma 5, this will be the second point. Then here 35 comma 3, and over here 45 comma 7. Also, as I told you, we have to include two imaginary classes, one before the first class. So before first class is 10 to 20, so previous class will be 0 to 10 with 0 frequency, and over here 50 to 60 again with 0 frequency. So here 5 comma 0 and over here 55 comma 0. Obtain these points on the graph paper and join them directly with the help of scale in order to get the frequency polygon without actually drawing the histogram. Okay, after this graphical representation, now we'll come to the central tendency, that is mean, mode and median. So first we will see mean of the data. Mean, very simple formula. If I say sum of observations divided by number of observations, sum of observations upon number of observations, this is the very basic formula about mean. It is represented by x bar. Okay, so sum of observation can be represented by sigma xi and number of observation can be represented sigma of fi. Okay, this is the mean of the ungrouped data. That means if 15 observations are given, suppose weight of 15 student is given and we have to find the mean weight, simply we'll add the mean of all weight of all students and we'll divide it by 15 to get the mean. Now there is one more way to find mean. Suppose we have observations with their frequencies. For example, x1 occurs f1 time, x2 occurs f2 time, x3 occurs f3 time, and xn occurs fn times. Then how to write the median? So mean. Mean is equal to, see what I say, sum of observation. That means x1, 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 how many times? f1 times. So here I do write x1, f1. Then x2, how many times? f2 times. So x2, f2. In the similar way, xn, fn divided by number of observations. That means sum of all the frequencies. That is f1 plus f2 up to fn. So in other words, I do write sigma xi fi upon sigma fi. Okay, so mean of observations can be obtained with this formula. Okay, now there are some properties of mean. We'll see those properties of mean. See, if each observation, okay, if each observation is increased by a, okay, I'm writing in short, if xi is increased by a, by A, mean is also increased by A. That means each observation is increased by A, then mean will also be, new mean will be, uh, then in that case new mean will be equal to x bar plus A. Okay. Similarly, if each observation is decreased by A, or what's the common quantity, then new mean also decreased by that observation. Okay. If each observation is multiplied by A. Now here there is a condition, A should not be 0. That means I can say if each observation is multiplied by a non-zero constant, then mean or new mean is also multiplied with that. That means x bar A. Similarly, if each observation is divided by A, again A should not be equal to 0, then new mean will be equal to x bar upon A. That means new mean will be divided by A. So these are the some of the properties of mean. Okay. Now next we will see, after mean we'll see mode and then median, or let us see first median and then we come to the mode. Now median, as its name says, is the middlemost value of the given observation for ungrouped data. Okay, next is median. Okay, median is simply we can say middlemost value of the data. A median can be found in two ways: if the number of observations are odd and if the number of observations are even. So we'll write median is equal to, suppose number of observations are odd, 2, 3, 5, 9, 31, 30, 1, 6 and 7. Okay, suppose these are the observations. So first of all we have to write them in the decreasing or increasing order. So first is 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 30, sorry, then 9, then 30 and then 31. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 30, 31, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now after arranging the data in the increasing order, the middlemost value is the mean. So median. So median of this data is 6. So how to write formula? Median. Okay, I will write median in this way. N plus 1 by 2th observation. If n is odd. Okay, for example, here n is odd. N means number of observation. How many observations are there? 9. So 9 plus 1, that is 10. 10 by 2, that is 5. So fifth observation, value of fifth observation is the median in case of n is odd. Now suppose n is even, suppose I include 32 over here, then definitely it is not possible to find the middlemost value. 6 is not the middlemost value, neither the 7 is middlemost value. So we can say these two are actually in the middlemost. In that case, what will be the formula? Let us see. N by 2th observation plus n by 2 plus 1th observation whole divided by 2. Whole divided by 2. Okay, I am taking out this. Now here, see, number of observation is n is even. N is number of observations are even. So how many observations are there? 10 observations. So 10 by 2, that is fifth observation, plus 10 by 2, 5 plus 1, sixth observation. Okay, fifth observation plus sixth observation divided by 2. Fifth observation is 6 and sixth observation is 7. That means 6 plus 7 by 2, that is 13 by 2, that is 6.5. So median in that case will be 6.5. Okay, so that is all about the median. Now next is mode. Mode is very simple. The mode is, we can say, the observation that occurs maximum time. Okay, so observation with maximum frequency. Observation observation with maximum frequency is called is called median. Sorry, is mode. Observation whose frequency is maximum is called mode. Okay, so here that is all about the statistics, as well as that is all about the revision of all the chapters. So all the best for your exams. Okay, so thank you. Bye. Take care. Stay at home.